Knock on my door despite my no soliciting sign, just sit on the curb and forget about selling anything in my town for the rest of your day. I put up that sign 2 months after moving to Ridgefield. I work night shifts at the hospital and sleep during the day. Door-to-door salespeople kept waking me up. The sign worked for 3 weeks until Thursday when my doorbell rang after only 4 hours of sleep. I opened the door in yesterday's scrubs. A guy in a polo shirt held a tablet and launched into a pitch about home security systems. I pointed at my no soliciting sign hanging right next to my doorbell. He glanced at it and kept talking. He said this wasn't soliciting because he was offering free security assessments after break-ins 2 streets over. He said I should sign up since I lived alone. That creeped me out. I told him to leave. He pulled up statistics on his tablet. I told him again and he laughed. He said he just needed 5 minutes. I shut the door and locked it. I was too angry to sleep, so I called my neighbor, Mrs. Chen. I asked about break-ins. She said there hadn't been any. She said these security people need city permits and I should call the police because the fine was big. I looked up the city ordinance. You need a permit to solicit, and you can't ignore no soliciting signs. The fine was $250. Through my window, I watched him going house to house. I called the police. Officer Ramirez arrived 15 minutes later. I showed him my sign and explained the guy lied about break-ins and refused to leave twice. Ramirez walked over and talked to him. Security guy sat down on the curb. Ramirez came back and said the guy had no permit. He'd given him a warning and told him he couldn't solicit anymore today. He had to wait for his ride on that curb. I watched from my window. An hour passed, then another 30 minutes. Around 4:30, a blue Honda pulled up. The driver got out and my stomach dropped. It was Kyle, my ex-boyfriend from 2 years ago. Kyle and I dated for a year and a half. It ended when I found messages on his phone between him and his coworker, Amanda. When I confronted him, he said I was being controlling. We had a huge fight and I blocked him. Now Kyle stood next to security guy talking. Security guy pointed at my house. Kyle looked over and I ducked from the window. This must be Kyle's roommate, but Kyle didn't know where I lived now. My doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Kyle. I opened the door with the chain lock on. Kyle had a beard now. He said his roommate Trevor told him someone on the street called cops on him. When Trevor described the house, Kyle realized it was my address. I said Trevor ignored my sign and lied about break-ins. He refused to leave when I asked twice. Kyle said Trevor was trying to make quota. He asked, couldn't I have just shut the door instead of calling cops? I got angry. I said I did shut the door after asking him to leave twice. Trevor made me feel unsafe mentioning I lived alone. Kyle got quiet. Then he asked how I'd been and if I was seeing anyone. I said that was none of his business. Kyle said he'd been thinking about me lately. He said Amanda was just a friend and nothing happened. I couldn't believe it. I said I saw the messages. They were flirting. He lied about working late when he was with her. Kyle said it looked worse than it was. Nothing physical happened. Maybe he got too friendly, but it wasn't cheating. I said emotional cheating is still cheating. Lying is cheating. Turning it around on me instead of apologizing was why we'd never work. Kyle's face hardened. He said Trevor lost money because of me and it wasn't fair. I said Trevor should have followed the law and respected my sign. Kyle said I hadn't changed. I was still impossible. He walked back to his car and drove away. I locked my door shaking. Then it hit me. Kyle said when Trevor described my house, he realized it was my address. But how did Trevor know to describe my specific house unless Kyle told him which one to focus on? Trevor had spent extra time at my door. He'd mentioned I lived alone like he already knew. Kyle had sent Trevor here on purpose. He'd told Trevor which house was mine, maybe to bother me or test if I still lived here. But his plan backfired when I called the cops. I texted Mrs. Chen everything. She said Kyle sounded unhinged and I should document it. She'd tell the other neighbors about the permit requirement too. That afternoon, I installed a Ring doorbell camera. Kyle never came back. Trevor never came back. My doorbell stayed quiet.